Welcome to this explainer. Have you ever wondered if reality itself is just running on code? Well, today, we're not treating the universe like abstract physics. Instead, we're looking at it as the ultimate operating system. We're going to walk right through the literal source code of existence using Logos field theory. We'll look directly at the mathematical architecture that stops the universe from crashing, keeps our timelines perfectly synced, and literally renders the physical mass you interact with every single second. Sound crazy? Let's get into it.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for reality today. We're starting with the universal runtime engine, then moving to the cosmic master clock, checking out the hardware safety protocols, looking at how the physical world actually renders, and capping it off with the 42 nanosecond pipeline.
Starting off with Section 1, the universal runtime engine. To really understand reality, we first have to look at the architectural blueprints.
So this framework right here treats reality as a multi-tenant computational engine. Rather than just some chaotic void, the universe is actually built on the Adelic Langlands framework. You can think of this as the foundational motherboard grid of the universe. It provides the exact structured mathematical environment required to process countless individual interacting variables, like you and me, happening simultaneously, all without the entire system totally falling apart.
Now, I want you to look closely at this foundational premise equation. Check out the left side. See that trace Galois operator and the summation symbol? That multi-user summation literally represents all of us. Highly conflicting observer states all doing our own thing in localized space. If you left that unchecked, our conflicting actions would cause a massive system failure. But now look at the right side. It equals 0 modulo the characteristic of the system. That is the modulo clamp. The universe is mathematically forcing all of those conflicting observer states to 0, actively canceling out structural paradoxes before they even happen.
If we strip away the really complex math for a second, the Adelic Coherence Closure Theorem is essentially just a hardware safety protocol. It strictly prevents infinite loops. If you've ever had a computer freeze up because a program got stuck in a loop, you know exactly how catastrophic that is for an operating system, right? Well, this theorem guarantees that local quantum chaos cannot trigger an exponential data blowout. It guarantees the macroscale reality we live in remains completely stable and totally paradox-free.
Moving on to Section 2, the cosmic master clock. So how does this massive engine actually keep time and handle all those multiple users without lagging?
Look at that modular flow equation at the top. Sigma subscript t of f of gamma equals delta to the power of it. I know, it looks a little intimidating, right? But this is the Type III₁ von Neumann completion. In plain English, it acts as an indestructible metronome for the entire universe. This equation mathematically locks the background substrate into a continuous state-independent time evolution. Because its spectrum spans the entire continuous positive real line without discrete eigenvalues, it literally cannot collapse. It's the unshakable cosmic master clock driving absolutely every process forward.
And here we can brilliantly see what happens when user 1 and user 2 occupy the exact same space with conflicting intentions. Take a look at the central equation featuring U subscript t. That right there is the Connes Radon Nikodym cocycle. It basically acts as a cryptographic tunnel. The moment user 1 and user 2's timelines or intents drift out of phase, this equation instantly crushes the destructive phase interference. It just quotients out all that inner unitary noise.
Thanks to that cocycled tunnel, all of those messy, conflicting human cross-intentions collapse beautifully into a single, perfectly synchronized global timeline. And you might be wondering, how fast is this timeline refresh? It ticks at precisely 23.6742 megahertz. That's literally the clock speed of our reality. Everything you perceive is being synchronized and refreshed nearly 24 million times every single second. Pretty wild, right?
Okay, Section 3, hardware safety protocols. Of course, any powerful operating system running at speeds like that is going to need some strict hardware limits to prevent an overload.
Let's break down this equation acting as the ABC radical circuit breaker. On the left side, you have C, that's the linear additive energy potential, essentially the threat to the system. Now on the right, see that rad ABC variable raised to the power of 1 plus epsilon? That's our multiplicative clamp. Whenever additive energy in a local area gets way too high, this radical inequality trips just like a circuit breaker in your house. It mathematically caps the energy surge before it can blow out the local space-time geometry.
As we just saw in the math, the system actually follows 3 automated steps whenever a threat is detected. First up, it flags the exception. The ABC hit instantly traps the local coordinates in a holding register. Second, it triggers the modulus clamp, which basically intercepts traffic controllers to choke the bandwidth and slow the local clock speeds down. And finally, step 3, it executes a Fermat viscosity flush. It literally shunts the excess phase noise down non-Wieferge pathways, forcing it into destructive phase interference just to protect the wider grid.
Up next, we have the cosmic expansion equation, which governs exactly how the system handles memory and spatial coordinates. See there? E subscript n equals mu times p to the power of n plus lambda times n plus nu. Those three specific coefficients, mu, lambda, and nu, are the absolute governors of our cosmic database expansion, working together in total harmony.
So the really crucial takeaway here is how these three variables function in the system. Mu acts as the universe's RAM cap, and it is hard-locked strictly to 0 to completely prevent exponential memory blowouts. Lambda is your linear scalar. It dictates exactly how many new spatial coordinates are initialized per cycle, which, by the way, we physically experience as the Hubble expansion of the universe. And nu is the latency trim. It deforms the local frame buffer scale based on data density, expertly handling the latency that we experience in the real world as gravitational time dilation.
All right, section 4, rendering the physical world. Now we reach what I think is the most fascinating part, how all this abstract mathematical data actually gets rendered into the physical mass that you can touch and feel.
Look down at the physical rest mass eigenvalue equation right there. Lambda subscript n equals m0 multiplied by gamma subscript n over 2 pi phi to the fourth. The 8-dimensional finite spectral matrix is processing unrendered number-theoretic streams to literally extract mass from mathematical zeros. See that gamma subscript n variable? Those are the non-trivial zeros of the Riemann zeta function. The system uses those exact zeros to derive the rest mass profiles of elementary particles.
Just let that sink in for a second. The exact arithmetic origin of elementary fermion mass. What this literally means is that the physical weight of everything around you, the chair you're sitting on, the screen you're watching this explainer on, your own physical body, it isn't just matter. It's the direct physical output of a Riemann zeta function calculation being run continuously by the universal engine. Mind-blowing, right?
Which brings us to our final section, section 5, the 42 nanosecond pipeline. Let's see how all of this builds up into the final complete cycle of reality generation.
This flowchart is the grand finale. From 0 to 42.24 nanoseconds, this is the exact window governed by the 23.6742 MHz master clock we talked about earlier. Every exactly 42.24 nanoseconds, the universe executes this precise 5-step pipeline to refresh the flawless visual and physical frame of your reality. Let's walk through those steps real quick.
In sub-attosecond timing, the system goes to work. Step 1, it ingests your intents right into a sandbox cache. Step 2, it syncs concurrency using those cocycles we mentioned to eliminate any noise. Step 3, it decodes the math and upscales the data into continuous metrics. Step 4, it checks the hardware bounds to make absolutely sure mass limits aren't breached. And finally, step 5, the Frobenius operator drops the inertia shield just long enough to commit the execution, streaming a flawless new physical reality frame before snapping that shield right back into place.
This global parameter registry table is basically the ultimate spec sheet for our universe. It beautifully summarizes everything we've unpacked today. You've got the universal bus ticking at 42 nanoseconds, the expansion governors, mu, lambda, and nu, managing the memory and the Hubble expansion, the hardware limiter, our ABC breaker, clamping down on mass surges, and the operator geometry, deriving our very mass from mathematical zeros. It is a perfectly balanced, entirely automated system.
Which leaves us with one totally unavoidable, staggering question to ponder as we look at the world around us. If our entire physical reality is seamlessly rendered by a mathematical computational engine every 42 nanoseconds, protected by perfect hardware safety protocols and clocked to an exact frequency, who or what actually wrote the base code? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll leave you to think about that one.